young people around the world are finding ways to solve our trash problem. In Kenya, these bricks made from recycled plastic are paving roads.
Plastic waste is not just a Kenya problem, it's not a Nairobi problem, it's a worldwide problem.
In Sierra Leone, this paste will become a sustainable cooking fuel made from coconut shells instead of wood. The 18-year-old who made it spent months developing the perfect recipe.
I was like, it's either it works or it works. It needs to work.
And in the United States, this woman has saved 4 million beer bottles worth of glass from landfills and recycled them back into sand.
Never let anyone tell you that individuals cannot make a difference, because all of this is thanks to incredible individuals.
These entrepreneurs grew up in the era of climate change. Now they are inventing new ways to help the planet and make a profit off worldwide waste.
This is melted plastic mixed with sand.
It doesn't look like poo. Ideally speaking, it's very visual like that.
And it becomes as hard as concrete once a hydraulic press squeezes it into shape. A company in Nairobi wants to install these plastic bricks on streets across Kenya's capital. Nzambe Mate opened her company, Jijenge Makers, in 2018.
So Jijenge is a Swahili word which translates to build yourself.
The factory processes 3 of the 7 types of single-use plastics.
Here on my right, these are the hard plastics, and here on my left, these are the soft plastics.
Kenya has one of the world's toughest bans on plastic bags, but bottles and other containers are still everywhere. This is where workers sort them. They can handle about 10 metric tons of plastic every month.
So this is the guy who starts our production. Without him, we are nothing. So big up.
Vinny operates the crusher, which pulverizes plastic into small pieces.
Let's crush it very loud.
Workers fold the dry mix together with a shovel.
Depending on the color you want, this is a stage at which you put the color pigment. And then after that, it's fed on the extruder.
This machine heats the plastic and sand mixture until it's soft enough to mold.
This is one of my proudest moments as a person, as a team member, and also as the founder of Jijenge. So what you see here, the machine and all the others, we fabricated here in Jijenge. It is mixed together at very high temperatures. So it ranges anything from 300 to 400 degrees centigrade, where it mixes that plastic and sand and forms a gooey, like a dough-like material. And that's what we make the brick with.
Each lump of the mixture is weighed by hand. People say the smell is something like new asphalt on a hot day.
So the brick currently Joseph is producing is a 1.3 kilogram. So that's what he's measuring. He's measuring 1.3 kilogram of the mixture.
This hydraulic press can squeeze 9 bricks at a time.
Ideally speaking, it's like baking a cookies. And this here is Lawrence. He's the guy with the magic touch. So I'll let him do his thing.
At this point, the bricks need to cool so they can harden at room temperature.
So here's the curing bay. So once we take from the hydraulic press, we feed it in the curing bay, and then after like about 2 to 5 minutes, you have a finished product.
Many bricks come off the press with jagged edges. A worker breaks them off on a large stone before adding the finished bricks to a stack. A pallet of 400 plastic pavers can sell for up to $150, depending on thickness. The company says that's about 25% cheaper than bricks made from concrete. But experts say these innovations may increase the amount of plastic released into the environment.
Roads are subject to constant abrasion. We drive on them, right? And so roads are actually the primary source of microplastics in the environment.
In recent years, researchers have found microplastics in nearly every sample of our food, drinking water, the air we breathe, and even inside our bodies. Tangri says that any solution that doesn't focus on decreasing the amount of new plastic going into production lets the people who created the problem off the hook.
The petrochemical industry would like nothing better than to say we can put it all into roads or we can do something else with it.
Still, roads made with plastic are cheaper, mainly because they require less asphalt. And they make good use of plastic that would otherwise end up in places like Dandora, Nairobi's only official landfill. Nzambi knows that her invention can't tackle a mountain of trash that large. So far, her factory has recycled 50 metric tons of waste this year, but Nairobi produces 6 times that amount of plastic trash every single day.
We need variant solutions. So I cannot say this is the solution in terms of like, does the biggest impact and all that stuff? No. Does it have an impact? Yes. Do we need to do more? Definitely.
She employs 20 people full-time, nearly all of them under 30 years old.
Me, my team, and everyone else in this space, we get to earn a living, and that I'm happy with.
Most of her customers are local, including her mother, who is also an entrepreneur. She just started a business raising egg-laying hens in her backyard.
They are very peaceful birds. Yeah, I've got 1,200. Yes.
Nzambi's first experiments with plastic trash took place here. Now, her bricks cover the entire driveway.
Even outside, she has done this up to outside the compound. And we are very grateful. Now we live in a very good place.
Eventually, Nzambi wants her business to grow internationally.
Plastic waste is not just a Kenya problem, it's not a Nairobi problem, it's a worldwide problem. And so if we can figure out how to solve it in our local, then it's easy to replicate that solution to maybe to start to the East Africa region, and then to the greater part of the world.
In India, another company is also finding a way to reuse plastic waste.
These sneakers are made from 100% recycled materials. The company that makes them says each pair contains 10 plastic bags and 12 bottles. 23-year-old Ashay Bave launched Theli in July 2021.
Theli because it is the Hindi word for plastic bags.
At first, Bave struggled to gather materials, even though trash in India ends up in all kinds of places.
I assumed that it would be easy to find, waste plastic bags, but that wasn't the case.
So Bave partnered with a waste removal company that hires rag pickers. Those are people who collect recyclables from the street to sell for cash. TrioTap Technologies offers them a steady paycheck and an indoor sorting space. They clean the bags in a hot tub filled only with water, without any added chemicals, and then hang them out to dry. Inside the warehouse, Sairudin stacks 8 to 10 layers of bags at a time. Then places the pile under a heat press. This finished product will cover most of the sneaker. The company's founder calls it Theli-Tex.
So it's a material that's made entirely out of waste plastic bags without the use of any chemicals.
They sell for about 25 US cents per sheet. Sairudin packs and ships them 7 hours north to the Nitush footwear factory. That's where the shoe will be assembled. First, Theli-Tex sheets are die-cut using metal forms. Other patterns are cut from rPET fabric, which is made from recycled bottles, and woven into something like canvas. These sheets come from a company in Taiwan. The workers stitch the two types of materials together. The assembled upper gets stretched out. Theli's soles are made from crumbs of industrial rubber. A worker needs to rough the sole on this grinder, so the glue added in the next step will adhere. They coat the top of the sole with a clear glue. A special UV light increases its stickiness. The shoes go through a series of heat treatments and coats to strengthen the bond between the sole and the upper. Then comes the final round of stitching. Theli's laces are also made from recycled plastic. This factory employs 170 people, and makes shoes for 3 different companies.
We wanted to make sure that we're still using existing sneaker manufacturing techniques. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel.
Nitush turns out 15,000 pairs of shoes every week, and they try to recycle everything, even scraps.
It's recycled, and some of it is also reused to make more Theli Tech sheets.
And once a customer is through with a Theli sneaker, Bave says they can send it back to the company for a discount.
This allows us to responsibly recycle them. We refurbish them, and we're donating them to charities and refugee camps.
This young entrepreneur built a business by crushing bottles back into sand.
She co-founded what could be Louisiana's biggest glass recycling operation. And in about 2 years, she saved 4 million beer bottles worth of glass from landfills. And it's ramping up at a time when global supplies of sand are actually running out.
We are using up sand at a faster rate than it can be naturally created.
So volunteers use the crushed up glass to help rebuild the coastline. Francisca Troutman started Glass Half Full with her boyfriend in February of 2020, while they were still college students.
One night during college, over a bottle of wine that we knew would end up in a landfill, we decided, instead of continuing to complain about the problem and the lack of glass recycling, that we would just do something about it.
So we had this idea, but that was about it. No waste management experience, no recycling experience.
They raised about $18,000 to cover startup costs, including a machine that could grind up 1 bottle at a time.
As this literal mountain of glass started to form in my residential neighborhood, we're like, okay, we gotta do something here quick.
Since moving into this warehouse in August 2020, they've received a non-stop avalanche of glass to recycle. People can drop it off for free or pay to have it picked up.
Once a can is full, we will dump it into our glass mountain. Unless it's a special color, it'll be mixed into here.
Colorful bottles can be turned into specialty sand that sells at a higher price.
So this is blue sand made from Bombay gin bottles. Artists really love to use it. People love to use it in their gardens.
But most bottles are thrown onto what Fran calls Glass Mountain.
So Glass Mountain is always expanding and contracting. We're always adding glass to it and taking glass away to be crushed. Woo!
Eventually, workers scoop the bottles up with this loader and dump them into a crushing machine.
It's metered out into the conveyor belt, and it'll go up this conveyor belt and hit the hammers where it'll be crushed and then turned into sort of a mixture of sand and gravel and labels.
The pulverizer leaves behind some larger chunks of glass that are too big to use.
Everything that's bigger than 3/8 of an inch will be taken out. So that'll include labels, metals, caps. Anything non-glass will come out of this process.
They're still figuring out what to do with these leftovers.
The newer models allow you to send this waste stream back through the system. So we're working on raising money in order to get that new system.
At the warehouse, some usable sand is piling up too, because one crucial piece of equipment is too small.
You can really see the difference in size of this compared to our machine. So our machine can process a lot quicker than this can sift.
The sifter filters out any leftover label pieces and sorts the sand by size.
And you just scoop the unsifted product, put it in the top, and it'll shake it all down until it's separated into each of the 5 sizes.
The largest grains of glass help pay the bills. Glass Half Full sells them as gravel. Some buyers mix it into flooring. The smallest type of sand is a fine powder.
This is like the consistency of flour. It's extremely soft. I wish everyone could touch it and walk on it.
It goes into sandbags the company gives away for free.
People use sandbags to put up against their doors, up against their homes, anywhere where water could get in, because we're super prone to flooding here.
In between the powder and the gravel is coarse sand, the kind Fran and Max use to rebuild the coast.
So this is like the size we would be using for coastal restoration. You can see it's not sharp, so it's not going to cut me.
At an event called a deployment, the Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana dropped about 10 tons of recycled sand along Lake Pontchartrain.
This is the battlefront that y'all are helping us to protect today. Thank you for coming.
Fran and Max hand out the sand in burlap bags, which were donated by local coffee roasters.
We like being able to move it with manpower and kind of get as many people involved as we can. It's a really beautiful thing to see.
Fran and Max hope their story will inspire others to make a difference.
I think this is really more so the story of a community coming together to say we demand change and we're not going to wait any longer.
2 individuals decided to start this, and now over 2 million pounds of glass are not in a landfill, and they're making a difference in other areas.
In South Africa, 2 sisters figured out how to turn PVC into high-end home goods.
PVC is one of the most common plastics in the world. And even though this material can be recycled over and over again, it often isn't. That's what inspired these 2 sisters to launch their own business. Mo is the artist behind Mo's Crib,
They actually dye it.
while her sister Michelle runs the business side of things.
We are actually both Mo. My African name is Mushibudi, which is an M-O, and my sister's African name is Murungwe. And our surname also happens to be M-O, Mugoni. So it really made sense for us to call it Mo's Crib.
Mo and Michelle get most of their raw material from the wholesale company Sizabantu Piping. Mo sorts through piles of broken PVC pipes, sent to the scrap heap before they were even sold.
Like this, that will definitely never be used for its sole purpose, for water or sewage, etc. So I can actually take this one.
And even though these are junk for construction companies, they're the right amount of broken for Mo and Michelle.
It's like this defect right here is exactly what we're looking for. We love this sort of pipe. So we're definitely taking this.
These pipes are 6 meters long, so workers cut them down to more manageable sizes. Pipes from PVC, short for polyvinyl chloride, are hard and durable. But they can be heated and reshaped without losing strength. And even a simple bonfire will be enough to do it.
The pipe comes in contact with the fire. This is to make it so that it softens.
Innocent Mango, nicknamed Franz, worked as a plumber before this, installing pipes similar to the ones he now makes into baskets. He spins the pipe over the flame until it weakens into a workable texture. This part of the process could expose workers to harmful fumes, but the company told us they plan on switching to an enclosed oven sometime in 2023. With the aid of a box cutter, he then ties one end of the now floppy pipe to an anchor. Then Franz walks backwards, all in one smooth, skillful motion, slicing it into thin strips almost as long as the entire yard. The strips are now ready for weaving.
But before we weave, we have to then create a frame for the basket.
Franz has been weaving baskets for over a decade. He's one of the company's 11 full-time employees.
A planned laundry basket is plus minus 1.5 hours. Full process.
It takes 1 meter of pipe to finish a planter. The laundry basket requires 2 meters of pipe. That makes each basket a one-off creation.
Right. No. TikTok.
Chemists discovered PVC in the 19th century after exposing vinyl chloride gas to sunlight. It's used in construction, vinyl records, clear IV bags, even clothing. But some of the things that make them so functional also make them hard to recycle. PVC pipes used to contain harmful additives like lead and cadmium, which can contaminate other plastics headed for recycling. So they need to be separated. Many large producers voluntarily removed a number of these harmful elements before 2015, but most countries don't outright ban them. These pipes can be used for up to 100 years. Many of the ones ready for retirement still contain those dangerous chemicals. So a lot ends up in landfills. Mo and Michelle need pipes of a certain thickness for their weaving process. Too thin, and they're not strong enough to withstand weaving. Too thick, and they're too hard to cut properly. So for years, as they collected pipes, Mo and Michelle also stumbled upon hundreds they couldn't use. That made it harder for the sisters to expand.
As the business continued growing and the demand was more, we needed to find alternative sources.
So they partnered with the pipe manufacturer Kusasa Mining Pressure Systems in 2019. Here, discarded pipes of nearly any size can be recycled into exactly what the sisters need.
We can bring any type of pipe, no matter the color, and it actually goes through a regranulation process.
And abafuna make sure exactly what the pants, of which is 2 to 3 millimeters wall thickness.
The granulator pulverizes the original pipes into a fine powder.
Lapho siyakuthatha ke lawo maphepha lawa siwalathi siwafaka kuphi kwi-granulator.
Kusasa adds wax and lead-free stabilizers to the mix, just like it does when it's making new or virgin PVC pipes. Workers heat the mixture and then push it through an extruder. The PVC has to be the right temperature. Too cold? Then it's too hard to mold. But not cold enough, and
it's gonna be like banana, of which is wrong. They're not supposed to be like that.
The workers use water to regulate the temperature of the pipe. The pipe hardens as water cools it, and is then cut to the right size. And voila, the old PVC is now new PVC. PVC is just a small part of our global plastics problem, but the Mukoni sisters are happy to do their part.
And this we have found is a solution to this global environmental challenge that we are facing. And we are doing that one basket, one grass tray, one chair at a time.
Or one coconut at a time.
Alhaji Siraj Ba spent months of trial and error developing his recipe for cooking fuel, made out of coconut shells instead of trees.
I was like, it's either it works or it works. It needs to work, so I need to do everything for it to work.
He lost his adoptive family in a mudslide when he was 17. Before that, he spent years living on the streets, dreaming of the day he could launch his own business.
Briquettes help prevent deforestation because they are produced from biomass waste. They are not produced from wood.
He lives in a part of Sierra Leone that has lost 70% of its forest cover over the last 5 decades. One reason for deforestation is people chopping down trees to feed their stoves. Tree roots are essential to holding back the earth during increasingly intense storms.
You move from having lush green mountains to dark brown death traps.
The question now is, can Alhaji convince people in Freetown to swap wood-based charcoal for coconut briquettes? Coconuts are one of Freetown's favorite on-the-go snacks. Vendors end the day stuck with heaps of shells that they need to get rid of somehow, and that costs money.
This was supposed to be waste. They needed to pay transport to dump this thing. Now I'm going to pick it up for free.
Alhaji says his company, Roguestar Trading, collects about 2 metric tons of coconut waste per week. He's aiming for 10 tons by the end of 2022.
So this is the backbone of our products. This is well for us.
Workers clean the husks and shells and dry them for about a week. Next, they fire them inside this steel drum.
It carbonized for like 3-4 hours. We put the fire out using water. We have to wait for them to get dried.
They pulverize the charred coconuts into a fine powder and add water plus a secret ingredient to bind it all together.
The mixing is very challenging, so the whole process depends on the mix. A slight mistake on the formula, you have to start all over again.
The extruder pushes out slimy rectangular logs that will need to dry for 3 to 4 days. These ones are destined for shisha pipes. In fact, people who smoke hookah are his best customers these days. Alhaji's next big challenge is to grow his sales to reach people who will use his coconut briquettes for cooking fuel instead of cutting down trees.
It's not easy, but it takes time. It's very tough to build something great. If it was not tough, everybody would have done it. So
His mother says he's wanted to be an entrepreneur since he was a kid.
All day, they look Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, we get Facebook. The man will get the man will get money pass all man. Not only they only say they watch, and they get money. All is for me.
But that all felt very far away when Alhaji suddenly became the breadwinner for his family at age 12.
We man die left pass bokuti pass on me. Only wish they say, Mama, I forget money. So I get 22, 23, I forget money. I for pull you and pull. I for pull you and suffer.
He left his village, hoping to make money to send home to his mother and sister.
I was just this kid who wanted to become somebody, but I was not thinking straight. I thought that it is just okay for me to move to Freetown. So without thinking about where am I gonna stay, who's gonna feed me, who's gonna take care of me, but I moved.
He lived on the streets for 4 years until he found a steady job and an adoptive family who took him in.
7 to 8 months after my adoption, I lost my family that I was living with during the mudslide.
Over 1,100 people died and 3,000 more lost their homes. Alhaji was left with just a few dollars to his name. But he was desperate to do something to stop the deadly mudslides. In the decade before the tragedy, mudslides in Africa had already claimed thousands of lives.
One of the reasons that cause a mudslide is the vast amount of deforestation, because the roots helps to keep the soil firm.
Alhaji began obsessively researching ways to stop deforestation. He found YouTube videos of entrepreneurs from around the world making biomass briquettes to replace wood and charcoal. He started saving money for an expensive mechanical extruder and perfecting his recipe.
Our formula is so outstanding that it can burn for like 4 hours. It emits less smoke.
But most people in Freetown still cook with wood.
You just can't walk up to somebody and be like, hey, this is new, this is different from what you've been using. So it's a bit tough, but we'll get there one day.
According to a study in the Philippines, 1 ton of biomass briquettes saves roughly 80 small trees. And that can add up. But preserving trees isn't enough.
Part of the solution.
Yvonne Aki Sawyer became mayor of Freetown by campaigning on a promise to plant 1 million trees by the end of 2022. She told us that Alhaji's project makes her feel hopeful for the future.
The work that Alhaji is doing is one of the ways in which you see the coming together of solutions for these multifaceted problem of sanitation and the environment.
In Calgary, 2 brothers are doing their part by keeping busted skateboards out of landfills. Adrian and Martina's pool have been skating the streets of Alberta, Canada for more than 20 years. They've now turned that hobby into a thriving business.
At the beginning, we were only building from the material that we were able to scrounge up through like dumpster diving outside construction sites, and then also the skateboards.
About 2 million skateboards end up in landfills every year. After working in construction, the Poole brothers have spent the past decade upcycling thousands of those boards into earrings, coffee tables, and their signature bowls. Skateboards are made out of maple wood that goes through a special treatment, allowing it to be peeled into thin sheets. Each board, or deck, has about 7 layers of those sheets glued together. That makes deconstructing the boards a bit tricky.
They're extremely hard on equipment, mainly because they are made out of hard maple and then a lot of glue.
But the quality of wood leads to durable products.
The skateboards are the nicest plywood that is made because it's solid maple the whole way through.
Martinez picks broken boards up from local skate shops every week.
We'll also get calls from moms when they see our work and they'll be like, I've got my son's boards in the garage and I'm gonna throw them out, like come get them.
The first step is to remove the grip tape.
Ideally, we like to do in the summer on a hot day, and we just leave the boards out in the sun for half an hour, and that heats up the glue enough so that you can peel them off. The next step is getting the boards back down to just bare wood. We have to remove the clear coat that you can see on the top, as well as the graphic and anything left on them so that the glue can adhere properly. We've butchered them into all their congruent parts.
These strips might become earrings, tables, credenzas, or in this case, a bowl. To make a bowl, Martinez stacks and glues tails and noses together.
Each bowl takes 20 of these nose and tail sections. I sort of start looking at them based upon like the size and like how much curve they are. And then so I'll sort of start with one that looks extra big. Make sure that they'll line up and they look congruent so that they'll laminate together well. So this is basically the layout of how the bowl is going to look and what the colors are going to be in it.
The boards are clamped together for 24 hours and left to cure for a couple more days after that.
And then the corners are cut off on the bandsaw, and after that's done, they're mounted on the lathe.
Then he shapes and hollows out the block of boards using skew chisels, bowl gouges, and scrapers. Martinez makes bowls in batches of about 15, each batch taking 2 to 3 weeks. Board manufacturers use different veneers and dyes on each deck, which makes every one of the Poole brothers' products unique. For decades, skaters have faced all kinds of negative stereotypes. In films and television, they're often portrayed as slackers and delinquents. But the sport has earned respect over time and had its first Olympic appearance in 2021.
Luckily, skateboarding got to go through this growth cycle so that skateboarding now is as big as any Olympic sport and has big mainstream sponsors, has huge events.
Now, generations of skaters who grew up playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater are starting to give back. Skaters like Ryan Flynn, whose online store, Chops, is also turning old boards into new products.
We like functional works of art, functional products, anything from sunglasses to pool cues to screwdrivers. We like them to be used. We like them to have a real second life.
Ryan hopes his products will push others to think more about the environment.
Even though we appreciate recycling and it's like something we've grown into, it's trickled down to other parts of our lives too, right? It's like we're more conscious.
Likewise, the Poole brothers believe their efforts will get skaters to consider what happens after they're done with their boards.
I think we definitely inspire people to get into woodworking or try to recycle skateboards or that sort of stuff.
Hi, this is Will Story from the Worldwide Waste team. We want to bring you more stories that take a look at garbage and the creative ways people deal with it. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. We also read all the comments. If you have an idea for a video you'd like to see, let us know. You just watch excerpts from some stories we've done about young entrepreneurs. Click here for the full episodes.